Well, my friends, so every year, at this time of year, either this particular baptism story or one of the other baptism stories, I'm going to turn that down just a tiny bit, thank you, the big one, there you go. And it appears right after the Christmas time and right after Epiphany occurs. It's a traditional thing. It is the signal that we are entering upon a new year. So it's almost as if the old year is past, and so Jesus' baptism signals the fact that now it's like we're beginning again. So every single year on this particular Sunday is the baptism story of Jesus, one of the two. And so what did you hear that the voice from heaven or of God say to Jesus? What did it say? You are my beloved, exactly. So let's come up with some, outwardly speaking, let's come up, you just throw some ideas. What is, when you hear that word beloved, can you come up with synonyms, or can you come up with actions that you would do with someone who is beloved? What would you do? Holy, cool. Cherished? Kiss them. What was the other one? Take care of them. Someone you hold dearly. You hold dearly, yes. Protect. Unconditional love. A gift? Forgive. Held in high esteem. Okay. So, let me ask you another question. Bible knowledge. Okay? You're going to do good on this one, I promise. Okay. What do you recall of the Bible between when Jesus was at the temple and his family, he stayed there and his family had to get him, and his baptism? What do you recall in the Bible between that moment in his life and the baptism? Nothing. Exactly. Does that not strike you as a bit odd? Nothing. Okay, so let's throw out some wild ideas. If you know what I'm going with this, don't tell too much. But why would they not? Why do you think there wouldn't be any stories?
He didn't tell anyone.
He didn't tell anyone.
He got in trouble as a teenager.
He got in trouble as a teenager. What's that? He ran away. Interesting. Well, he did stay away from his parents at one point. He didn't do anything remarkable. Interesting. Okay, so all very viable suggestions you've given to me. Now, I've told you this before. I haven't really given you too much detail about it before, but I have told you that in the past that there are other gospels out there in the world. There are other gospels out there in the world. There's just not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. All right? Those are the ones that they decided to put into what we call the canon, the accepted stories and teachings of Jesus, and of course the accepted teachings of the Hebrew Scriptures. We combine them all, okay? There are other and many gospels out there. And guess what? They do tell stories of Jesus between the temple and his baptism. Ooh. And what was he doing? Let me tell you a few of the things he was doing. You ready? All right. You know what the word mensch is? It means human being. It's a Jewish term for human. They're human. All right, everything expected of them. He was probably a very, very menschy guy, okay? In one instance, it tells that, or several instances, one of the Gospels says between ages 5 and 12, okay? One time it says he miraculously saved his brother James from a poisonous snake bite. Why didn't they include that? Pretty cool. Another one, this is sort of less humble and a little bit more taking advantage of the situation. His father was a carpenter. It said in one story that he stretched a beam longer to help his father with some carpentry work. It wasn't long enough, so he stretched it longer. Interesting. And he even supposedly resurrected a construction worker. Okay? Now, pretty cool. Great stories. Why not include them? I don't know. Maybe they were too much, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they didn't believe them themselves. What else did Jesus do? Well, he could get into trouble. And you better say uh-oh, because it was quite an uh-oh. When a scribe in town got on Jesus' nerves, he declared, it was actually not the scribe, but the scribe's son, so it was a friend of Jesus. When the kid got on Jesus' nerves as a child, Jesus declared that the child should be withered like a tree and not bear leaves, nor root, nor fruit. So the kid shriveled up and died. Yikes! Another moment, some kid bumped into Jesus and he cursed the child to death. And of course, the community, they were getting a little worried and, of course, really mad. And they tried to tell Joseph, you need to rein this kid in. Or get out of town, for crying out loud. So when Joseph went to Jesus and told him about what was going on and that he needed to stop this kind of behavior, Jesus says, well, I know the townspeople are causing you trouble, so I'll blind them all. Yikes. A number of teachers, he also gave teachers all kinds of problems. And then he resurrected a child. He went back to some great behavior. He resurrected another child who died. Problem was, he wanted the kid to be resurrected just so the kid would tell his parents that Jesus hadn't killed him. Yikes! Catching why some of these stories, or all most of these stories were not passed along? Or why, because it's confounding. It puts in front of us, a picture of something that we would rather not see. So, tell me some of his greatest hits, okay? Jesus' greatest hits. Let's throw them out there now. What are the ones that were great and wonderful you know about? Just throw them out there. Walking on water. What else? Rose from the dead. Water into wine.
Raising
Lazarus, yes. What's that, Melissa? Fed the multiple. What else? Fishes and loaves. Cured the blind. Didn't hear that one? Leprosy, yes. Yeah, those are great ones. Those are the ones that really, obviously, are included and we know and we're able to recall in the group setting like this. And it's wonderful. So, if we look back then on that moment. Now, Jesus, remember what Jesus, I don't think it was mentioned in this reading today, but do you recall when Jesus came to John and asked John to baptize him? Do you recall what John's response was? Do you recall?
I'm not worthy to tie your sandals.
Exactly. He said, I'm not worthy to do this. You're too great. But Jesus then replied, no, you must do this. Jesus was in some ways just claiming his humanity again, the fact that he could not get by without his John or whoever it might have been. And that, and we see in the scripture that both John and Jesus, sort of proclaim the idea that this baptism was but a symbol of what was going to become more important. It was a kind of baptism. Do you remember what kind of baptism it was? Well, now let's go away from water. But there would be a baptism that was greater than a baptism of water. It would have been of fire. Okay. What could that mean? What is fire then? What could possibly fire do? Is it going to be an actual fire? You're going to be actually walk into, a furnace like the three guys in the Old Testament and survive? Or is it that you're going to have to, go aflame like the burning bush? Or what do you think that idea of baptism of fire is going to be? Difficult life. What else? Sorry? Rebirth. Good. Being filled with a very strong spirit, right? Any of these answers are perfectly good. They're good answers as to what this new baptism or this baptism, actual baptism that's going to really matter. Not just because, let's face it, especially we in our tradition and many other traditions, baptizing a child, okay? It's really the community, they're taking the responsibility of nurturing and bringing that child up. That's the idea of baptism. Sometimes people want a private baptism, and most ministers are like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not like it's a magic pill or it's some sort of not a curse, but a blessing that we place upon this child that all of a sudden all is going to be well. It's that the community is going to be there to pick them up when they fall down, to celebrate when they do well, right? And so in other traditions, people get baptized as an adult. They make the decision. And many people, honestly, coming up out of the water, it's a special day. They've been looking forward to it, and it means so much. And all of a sudden, it's wonderful. I remember I didn't do it that way, but I remember my confirmation is like yesterday, and I was walking home from the church, and I literally can remember everything about it, about turning the corner onto my street in the day. It was a warm night, and we had just had a wonderful party and everything. I was like 3 feet off the ground. So there's this feeling, this understanding that something is different is going to happen here. It's this fire, as Celia said, something else from deep inside the Holy Spirit is going to change things. So this is what Jesus and his teachings are going to then, in many ways, not only just require of us, but challenge us and give us ideas to move on. And sometimes not be happy. Because let's face it, if you read the Gospels and are perfectly happy, I don't understand. Because the Gospels sometimes tell us to do things that are very difficult. Right? They do. And so this idea of this beginning of the new year, the story of Jesus' baptism, which happens every year in the liturgical, the church calendar, it's there to remind us that yes, the wondrous time of celebration is great and it's fabulous. But now it's time to remember, to let's move forward. And absolutely, receive, I guess, in many ways, that baptism again. As if you have been here at a baptism, I hope that you can sort of what's the word? Live your baptism again through the child. Renew your own baptism through it. Give that opportunity in your life to be new, to be reborn again, Not be afraid of those phrases, as oftentimes we sort of moderate Christians will say. We're sort of afraid of that reborn or newborn life and such. Instead, claim it. So you got to wonder sometimes if these things that happened in the other Gospels were true. There was some good, there was some bad. And the bad was bad. And the good was good. So what was then the words that came from Jesus or from the God or the voice from heaven? You're my beloved. It was both ways. That's what you need to remember. So I want you then to take that in fully for yourself. Yourself only. Don't worry about anyone else right now. Grab the oxygen mask that has dropped down. Put it on yourself first. The message is for you. That's why I say that every Sunday morning. That you are what? A beloved child of God's own creating. That's what it means. Carry that for yourself, I pray. I hope that you feel that way. I hope you share that hope with others. So, let's sing a song then.